Hello， 大家好，我是89，今天要跟大家分享一个非常可怕的影片，是由美国 FBI 制作的，他们抓了一个中共特务叫季超群的人。那在播放这个影片之前呢，跟大家稍微说一下，这个季超群2013年毕业于北京的航空相关的学院，而后他用这样的一个身份，在中国的就业博览会里面找到一个摊位，对吧？觉得说我可以为中国的航天事业发展尽一份心力。结果那个摊位是中共国安单位，你看他们在自己国内还伪装成一般的企业，招募到季超群之后，跟他表明我们其实是中共国安单位，我希望你去美国读书，然后在美国取得相关成就之后，试图留在美国工作，然后为我们中共取得美国相关的航空航太的情报。回来给我们中国，那而后他毕业透过了美国的一个计划，这个计划是军方单位认为你是在美国有留学工作过的人，你有特殊专长，加入美军1到2年就可以变成美国公民。那季超群就利用这个计划，好在美国的 FBI 把这个人给揪出来。到底还有多少季超群？在世界各地，不止美国，台湾也很多，对吧？台湾的军人被渗透的人很多，对吧？所以大家可以解释到，这个事情是2013年出现的事情距今10几年了。这10几年到底还有多少这样的人在台湾、在日本、在美国？所以川普现在，或者说我们其他的国家，慢慢的在国家安全的方面往右去倾斜，这也是非常正常的。为什么？因为我们不得已了，因为有人利用民主自由来颠覆、来渗透我们的民主自由，所以我们只好在国家安全方面往右，这没办法。我们带大家来看一下这段影片。
He does not read like a Chinese spy.
Yeah, $100,000 monthly. They pay me every 6 months.
This story is about aviation secrets, in particular, jet engine trade secrets. These are technologies that China wants very badly.
It's in the paper every day what China is alleged to be stealing in mass from the United States.
The playbook is simple: rob, replicate, and replace. We cannot tolerate a nation that steals the fruits of our brain power.
You have text messages, you have videos, you have photos, you have so much digital evidence about what he was doing.
What type of real spy is going to take a photo of a top secret blood oath? No one. Mr. Bean would do that. He was almost like a kid. I think it was clear Xi was a stand-in for some of the bigger conflicts that were going on between China and the United States.
His goal was to get U.S. citizenship, to become an intelligence officer. Xi was on that path.
When I met Zhao Jun, I just thought he was this cute, quirky guy. He felt like an extrovert to me because he just, I don't know, was so goofy and would talk to anyone. He really did have a pureness to him. He just, seemed like he just wanted to do good. To have such a happy-go-lucky personality takes so much energy. It feels like it would be authentic, but who's to say?
I've covered China for a long time, and Ji Chaojun, in many ways, is kind of the prototypical college kid for most of this story. He goes to a very prestigious university, the Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and he studied aviation engineering. This is a very important topic for the Chinese government. Jet engines are one of the hardest to replicate technologies. These were developed primarily during World War II, and for many decades, the US and Europe have held a monopoly. China has expended a lot of effort and energy on stealing those technologies. We're trying to. Xi is at a job fair about 6 months before he is set to graduate with his engineering degree. And he sees this kind of mysteriously labeled booth where there's a person who's purporting to be a professor recruiting for what he only describes as a confidential unit. It doesn't take long for Xi to realize that he's being recruited for the Ministry of State Security, China's premier intelligence agency.
MSS stands for the Ministry of State Security, and it's basically China's main intelligence agency. Think of a combination between the CIA and the FBI. The MSS doesn't really see a distinction between spying for the government and spying for Chinese companies and getting the kind of secrets they would be interested in their attempt to catch up and surpass their competitors. The vast majority of the actual MSS officers stay in China and never leave China, and so there's zero risk to them. G is unusual in that he is someone who was recruited in China and sent overseas really as an MSS agent.
There are two reasons the MSS was interested in G. One, he had technical knowledge that could help them identify trade secrets to steal. And the other was that he had a visa to travel to the US and he was clean. So in that sense, he's the perfect person to recruit to go spy in the US. They are really laying it on thick that this would be a really cool, kind of sexy, interesting opportunity. They're taking him out to dinners. They really wine and dine him. It was also something that appealed to his sense of helping his country.
He was into like the military. He was into this idea of being a spy, like a James Bond type spy in some very basic way. And I think that was a lot of the allure.
He travels to Nanjing, where the aviation trade secret theft is really kind of headquartered. That's where he gets his initial training. Once G signs with MSS, he's really excited about it. This might be the coolest thing that ever happened to him, to be recruited to be a spy. Mid-2013, G gets his visa, he travels to the US, and he begins studying at the Illinois Institute of Technology.
I knew this case was going to be one of the highlights of my career. Economic espionage is a significant national security threat to the United States, to us. Hopefully, people around the country and people around the world understand that, hey, we should be taking this seriously. I learned a ton about the MSS because of this case, what the MSS does and how it's structured and its history over time. A lot of people who are being recruited have what's called, in this world, handlers, people who are experts who handle the individuals being recruited to make sure they're following the right processes and everything is going smoothly. He was being handled by Xu Yanjun, and Xu Yanjun's responsibility, we knew, was to steal aviation-related secrets. Xu is the one who's giving G directions about what he should be doing to help the MSS. In August 2015 is when we first see a very specific tasking from the MSS, and specifically Xu Yanjun. Xu reaches out to G and asks him to gather information about certain scientists in the US.
What Xu asked him to do was to log on to 3 different background check websites and download background checks on 9 scientists. These are commercial websites. You enter a credit card number, you type in a name. This is all kind of public, commercially available data. And these were mostly Chinese nationals living and working in the US for major defense contractors.
And what he was really trying to do was gather intelligence about scientists, especially scientists who worked on aviation-related technologies, to try to identify those scientists and help recruit them to steal American technologies and give them to the Chinese government.
This is a pretty simple task that G is given, but it takes G longer than it should have. Xu Yanjun is kind of pestering him like, hey, do you have that stuff? Is it ready? Can you send it to me? G eventually gets the background checks together and he sends them in an email to Xu with the subject line, midterm exam.
Now, G is facing a problem. He's here on a student visa, and that means once he's done with his schools, he's got to leave the country and go back to China. G comes up with a plan. He joins the military through this MAVNI program. It allows the military to recruit people who are not citizens but have special resources or talents that the military really needs. He's a fluent Chinese speaker. The benefit for him is that it really, really speeds up the citizenship process. If you join the MAVNI program, it could happen in 6 months or a year. He's joined the military. He's on the fast track to become a citizen, get access to sensitive information. Things are going phenomenal, but then they come to sort of a screeching halt.
In April of 2018, a guy in a red car outside G's apartment gets out and accosts him on the street.
机敲拳吗？是的，我是南京的朋友叫我来的。
The man tells G that his friend from Nanjing, Xu Yanjun, is in trouble.
他们叫我过来的，跟你谈话。
G travels with the man to a hotel room in downtown Chicago. The man shows G a news article stating that Chinese spy arrested in Belgium at the request of the United States. G's main handler, Xu Yanjun, he was increasingly disgruntled at work, and he starts taking bigger and bigger risks to gather trade secrets from abroad. He winds up traveling to Europe and he gets caught. The person G's talking to is saying that he's an MSS officer as well, and they need to figure out how Xu Yanjun got caught and how deep the penetration of this spy network has gone. These are not totally friendly interviews. G is kind of on the back foot.
And thus begins this relationship between G and this guy who he thinks is his handler, but actually is an undercover FBI agent. The FBI agent is wearing a wire, so all of it's recorded. There's 3 meetings, one in April of 2018, one in May, and then one in September. G is incredibly forthcoming. In a weird way, he's kind of eager to like show that he was good at his job, thinking that this guy is his new boss. He's got these, big ambitions for what he's going to go on to do once he gets into the army and once he gets his clearance.
基本上 FBI CIA 这些我都可以去 ，NASA 也可以去，
都 FBI 的东西你大概知道。
就是如果我可以 apply 他们的岗位。
The FBI undercover asks him to sign a receipt on which is written in Mandarin, like receipt for MSS spy payment.
然后我再签了字，对，然后就可以了。
The signal to effect the arrest would be that G signs another of these payment receipts. And that would be the moment where the FBI would knock on the door and arrest him. The problem was the FBI had planned for everything except in the room there was no pen.
我打下面让他送一个笔箱了。
我觉得就是门口的 housekeeping 那些人应该有。
So the undercover had to go into the hallway. Now he's given a pen by another member of the arrest team.
He signs for the money that he's given for his work. The FBI go in and then arrest the undercover. Pretend to arrest him.
FBI, don't move. Wait, this is wrong. Turn around. Up. Hands on the wall. Stand up. Hands on the wall.
But you can hear the undercover actually kind of like scream in mock terror, I guess, as he's arrested him. And then these 2 FBI agents sit down at the table with G and start to have a conversation with him. The ruse is basically like, okay, this guy that we just arrested, he's been working with the MSS. Why are you talking to him? There's some effort being made to see if G will cooperate and maybe become an asset for them.
You've never had any interactions with that organization?
No.
He doesn't decide to do that, and then they arrest him.
At this time, Xu had been extradited from Europe and was in jail in Ohio. G was in jail in Chicago, and they're both headed for trial. As it often does, China denied all the allegations. China will often accuse the U.S. of, kind of manufacturing these details and making things up.
美方的有关指控纯属捏造。
In private, however, China was lobbying behind the scenes to get these 2 guys back.
He always maintained his innocence, was clear that he wanted to proceed to trial, and we were going to proceed to trial.
We had his literal registration form registering as the MSS, him signing a receipt that says MSS, which showed that he knew he was part of the MSS.
Typically, when someone is caught as a spy in another country, they're expelled. There's this idea that everyone does it. We want our spies to not be thrown in prison in other countries. But targeting companies animates this idea that it goes outside the bounds of traditional espionage.
The FBI wanted to set an example with these guys, and they did. Xu Yanjun gets 20 years in prison. Ji Chaochun gets 8 years in prison. Kind of the last thing we were expecting to see very late in the Biden administration, that both of them would be sent back to China.
Tonight, G and his convicted Chinese spy handler are part of a spy swap with China, resulting in the return of 3 Americans long held by Beijing, a couple of them also accused as spies.
I definitely, through the years, have wanted to reach out. Who doesn't want answers? How involved was he? Was it something that he just got roped into, in his innocence, didn't really know what it meant? I think about the flip side of, if it was an American doing this, looking for Chinese secrets, we would be okay with it, right? That's the reality.
There's what he was charged for and what he was convicted for. And then there's kind of what could have been. Had G not gotten caught, what would his path look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line? Let's say he wound up working for a major aerospace company. Who knows what his career could have looked like?
Our focus is on illegal conduct of the Chinese government and not of people in China, and certainly not of Chinese Americans. People of every race, every ethnicity, every gender, everything have been prosecuted for these kinds of crimes. We want to be very careful about having preconceived notions about what a spy looks like.
Most people don't live in the world of espionage. We think of it as an issue that's kind of out there somewhere. That's for the spy agencies. When it comes to trade secret theft, however, it could be the person next to you, and you'd have no idea. There's almost no way to know, and that's the really troubling, scary part.
好，看完这段影片，其实大家要关注的事情是，中共渗透跟统战是非常厉害。为什么我们总是要把那个红线画得非常清楚？ 为什么我们老是在说哪些人有疑虑，哪些人没有疑虑？那就有小粉红，还有那个在台湾的舔共的人，就喜欢当搅屎棍，模糊掉这个界限，对吧？你们知道前几天美国又抓到了一个美国的军官啦，好开 F-35啦，跑去中国去教中共的解放军。这个状况其实这几年出现了很多，但最近又抓到这几个新的，那就有一个问题啦，如果中共的军事实力跟中共的技术这么厉害，为什么要聘请美国的教练？包含中共的奥运运动员的教练，你不是拼日本就是拼美国的 ，Why？ 为什么？今天如果你们的军事真的如你们说的这么厉害，那应该是美国要聘用共军的人来教美军，对吧？实则相反。今天影片到此结束，喜欢记得订阅我，不喜欢记得一定要把我封锁。我是8号，下次见了，拜。